Hello everyone, this is Yixuan Olivia Cai. I am Associate Professor at Vanderbilt College of Music, and I have been teaching in this college for 17 years. But this is my very first year to join MTNA and ISMTA, and I'm very honored to be able to present for the ISMTA conference virtually, and I look forward to meeting you all soon. I'm also part of the violin piano duo Yang and Olivia, and in our recitals, we feature both Western repertoire and Chinese traditional folk tune arrangements. And later on in this presentation, you'll hear us perform a few pieces for you. Two of the three selections will be from this anthology. You can see it's pretty beat up. This is probably one of the most common anthology that Chinese violinists have. And in the back, it said, in 1979, Chinese folk transcriptions for violin and piano were compiled into an anthology to celebrate the 30-year anniversary of the People's Republic of China. This is when the country just went through 10 years of Cultural Revolution. This movement objects to Western culture, meanwhile purges anything traditionally Chinese, all for the goal of preserving the communist ideology. In essence, communist ideology derives from Marxism, which is to overthrow morality, tradition, family, and religion. Under this social and political context, this anthology provides an interesting paradox for its Western instrumentation, violin, and the traditional folk tunes used in the music. If you examine further, you will see that most of the repertoire has implications of political propaganda. The presentation will feature three selections, two of which are from the anthology, and I will talk about how they came about and what are their underlying meanings socially and politically. It is believed that the violin was brought to China way back in the 17th century by European missionaries. By the time of the 20th century, it is common practice to write music for the violin with the influence of Chinese traditional folk tunes. I would like to mention one important figure, Ma, who is considered the founder of violin education in China, being the first president and violin professor of the Central Conservatory of China, where my violin partner Yang went, and Ma is also Yang's teacher's teacher. He wrote over 20 violin pieces, with the Song of Nostalgia being the most famous. So famous that it has been the theme music for the China National Radio for years and years, until it was banned during the Cultural Revolution. The life of Ma is a representation of the many intellectuals, religious advocates, professors, scholars, and artists, how they fall into the victim of the Cultural Revolution and suffer from persecutions greatly. The government encourages youth to criticize, publicly humiliate, and mock their own teachers and intellectuals. Many are physically tortured to death. The word is pidou, and I have yet to find a proper English translation for it. In the picture, you will see signs hung over their heads with what their charges are, usually unfounded. Mr. Ma, having been exposed to Western culture by studying music in Paris twice actually, once when he was 11 years old and second time when he was 18 years old, he became an obvious target in the Cultural Revolution. Eventually, he had to escape to America. He died in America in 1987, but the body was not brought back until 2007, 20 years later. All his life, he has expressed his love for his own country and said he has done nothing wrong against the government. So here is the Song of Nostalgia. The Song of Nostalgia was written in 1937 before the Cultural Revolution began, but I thought it was an important transition and introduction of the cultural and historical background of the time. Like I mentioned, this piece was the theme song for the national radio station for years before it was banned during the Cultural Revolution and replaced by the song called The East is Red, 东方红. Speaking of red, there was this term red music that is associated with music intended for political propaganda in China, specifically for the Communist Party. So my presentation today is kind of like the presentation of red music. So the next red music we will play is Celebration of the Bumper Harvest. This one is written in 1958 during the movement of Great Leaps Forward that eventually leads to nationwide famine and the Cultural Revolution. The Great Leaps Forward is a campaign led by Chairman Mao Zedong, to transform the Chinese from an agricultural society into a communist one. What actually involves is people are asked to fulfill a certain quota of steel making by melting all the metals they can find, which include common household items. Of course, now we know that it is not how the steels are made, and it results in the land not being fertile, farmers being starved, etc. The Great Leap Forward resulted in tens of millions of deaths, with estimates ranging between 18 million and 45 million deaths, making the Great Chinese Famine the largest in human history. At the same time, the Communist Party claims the famine is the result of a natural disaster, which is not true at all. So here is Celebration of the Bumper Harvest, written by Jinping Zhang, also one of the leading violin pedagogues and composers. The piece is to celebrate the abundant harvest and the cheerfulness of the parties, etc., which is a great contradiction of the real lives at the time. The last piece we will be performing is The Golden Furnace, written in 1974, adapted from the red music pop song The Light of Chairman Mao Lights Up the Golden Furnace. 毛主席的光辉把金色的炉台照亮. This pop song depicts how good a relationship Chairman Mao has with the common workers and how their hearts unified as one, striving forward in the progress of the socialism. It is worth mentioning now that Mao's wife, Jiang Qing, was particularly attracted to the sound and expressive quality of the violin and recommended the violin to accompany the revolutionary opera instead of the Chinese instrument erhu, a newly composed opera at the time used as political propaganda. And that could be one of the reasons the violin remains a popular instrument during the Cultural Revolution. Before we perform the last piece, I would like to recite the original lyrics in the song for your reference, with my best attempt at translating as poetically as possible. The Golden Furnace. I battle on top of the golden furnace. This is where Chairman Mao has been, giving us teachings which still rings in my ears from time to time. The boiling water of steel shines my chest red. Thousands of steel mountains turn into iron water. Tens of thousands of steel materials transported to everywhere. Sweats dancing with the flower of steel. Red hearts sing with the furnace fire, shining in front so we are not lost in the far journey, etc., etc. Some repetition of the lyrics. And Chairman Mao, oh Chairman Mao, you light up the furnace forever. Chairman Mao, oh Chairman Mao, I follow you always, tempered into steel. With that, we present the last piece, The Golden Furnace. this is my presentation. Thank you very much for watching. Please contact me if you have any questions or comments. Meanwhile, I invite you all to check out our dual website and our arts foundation. Thank you all.